That is just the perfect way to start this show. uh, Unfortunately, for anyone who happens to stumble upon this very episode of the podcast, welcome to the Big Dudes in the Trenches, by the way. Long time no see, uh, which created some technical difficulties, which is why you see a StreamYard logo up there. Not normal for us. Hopefully, we can fix that by tomorrow. Now I'm really wishing I did something yesterday because I was planning on potentially hopping on here yesterday and maybe could have for sure had this fixed by then. But in the meantime, it is what it is. We're gonna power through. Um, we got a podcast like a champion today. That's
And
that's what it takes.
what may be the final ever couple of podcasts here. So we'll see.
It's very, very possible. But we do want to stream the NFL draft. It's been our annual tradition for a few years now. Really, ever since we started the show, we would go live every draft. I down an entire bottle of bourbon. I got some bourbon today for the purpose, and we'll do our best to be here for the first round of the NFL draft tomorrow. We have not done much draft coverage this season, in part because I think we overdid it last year, and in part because our schedules have been kind of nuts, and in part because I didn't really know what to do for the draft this year. So, what's the best way to say this? There are probably three players in this draft who would be first rounders in most years. Other than that, kind of everyone is interchangeable, which creates a really fun draft process, but also a very intensive one. And we're gonna showcase a little bit of that today. We're gonna do a tier list of prospects. Now, this is 52 different prospects we're going to put in a tier list. I know I said 48 bug earlier, but it's 52 now.
But
Here's
you
the
lied, is what you're
rationale.
telling me.
Here's the rationale. There were some new mock drafts today that I saw. This is the craziest shit. Every one of these 52 prospects, I have heard at least something connecting from some respected source, connecting them to the first round of this NFL draft. That is not normal. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to cover all of our bases here. We should, in theory, be able to talk about all of the guys we see get drafted tomorrow night in this tier list. It is possible that somebody from outside this theoretical top 52 gets taken. I kind of doubt it. But I also could name a couple of guys that are on the edge, and I might throw out those names at the end here if we have time. But this is 52 different prospects for a tier list, so it might take us a while. Anyway, with all that out of the way, Bug, how are you, man?
Been good, man. It's been a minute since we've been on here doing one of these. Last time we were on here, we were talking to a college football coach. So it's a
Yeah.
little different, little change up here. But I'm excited to get into it.
Unfortunately, his guy, Charles Grant, is not on this list of 52 prospects.
It is unfortunate.
Earliest I've seen him go is potentially pushing in towards the end of the second round. Um, that would be a little bit surprising to me, though. But who knows? Kind of anything's possible. So I think the the best way to do it is just get started here. Um, so the way this tier list is set up, and go ahead and pop it up here if you're ready.
Let's do it.
Okay. Uh, we have the top tier, which is the blue chip prospects. I think we all kind of know who they are if you've been following the draft process by now. I might have a hot take in there for you if you pay attention. Early contributor, they have everything going for them. Like they're going to be solid players. Um, yeah, you're gambling a bit. It's not a blue chip. At the same time, you expect them to really make an impact, see the field pretty early in their careers. Has all the traits is the next tier. These are guys that you're betting on the upside. You see, they're trust the process a little bit with these guys. They have the size, the speed, the strength, XYZ that you need. Probably not the best at their technical skills, which of course invites the next tier, which is the same color because the technicians who maybe don't fit the exact profile that teams normally look for at the position, those guys are valuable too, just in the exact opposite way. I do have on here, I think I'm about to bust here, guys that we have in this top 52 that are like, man, I don't see I don't see this going too well. And that of course invites some hot takes. And then he's great, but tier where we're gonna throw some injury concerns because I don't really know how to rate them otherwise. And I don't think it's fair to try to claim, early contributor when a guy still has a torn knee or something, and I don't know what to do with that. Also, might be willing to throw the character concern question marks into that tier. We'll see what we're feeling when we get there. We'll have the conversation as we go along. So this is a lot of guys, and to double check that I'm getting all of their names right, I have a list of their names off to one side and the pictures over here. You know,
Nice.
all these pictures, and StreamYard doesn't sort them alphabetically for me. I wish they would. It's kind of alphabetically by first name, but it messed up a few. So,
Nice.
yep, that's great. But that does start us off with Abdul Carter, the defensive end from Penn State.
I
Um,
think he's far and away a blue chip. I
yeah,
don't want to shortchange the conversation here, but knowing that we have 52 to get through,
yeah.
um, I think this is as chalk of a 1-1 as we've seen in quite some time. It's awesome to finally be getting an edge rusher in there as the obvious clearing away number one player. It's something we haven't seen in a few years, and people have been asking questions about it. Sorry, the cat got in here and messed up my camera, and now I'm trying to
Nice.
unfornicate that. It's something people have been talking about for a while that, we've had all these awesome, we've had some great quarterback drafts. We've had some great wide receiver drafts. We've had some great O-line drafts. We've not had a great top end edge rusher in a while. I think Myles Garrett's probably the last one that comes to mind, honestly.
I mean, yeah, he was a pretty good one. Last year was definitely the quarterback year, and we definitely don't have that this year. So it makes for
We
plenty
might
of
have it again next
intrigue.
year, though. We might have it again next year.
Uh, with who? I mean,
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
okay. We're betting on the upside of Garrett Nussmeyer, I guess. I do want to go ahead and jump actually to the one of the other guys that everyone knows is going to be in this blue chip tier because Travis Hunter's down here,
Yeah.
and we're gonna, yeah, that one's an obvious one. And then also, I'd say Ashton Genty
Well,
is the blue
and
chip.
what's
Now I know he's a running back and some positional value factors in as far as prospect goes. There's no the floor is already you're thinking he can potentially
Yeah,
be a
please get out.
multi-time Pro Bowler,
Okay, thank
you're
you.
expecting him to be in
Close the
contention for
door.
a second contract on your team, which at running back just doesn't happen all that often. So, yeah, he
What
has
what I
everything you could possibly want at running back.
Absolutely. And what I think is interesting is that early on, people were not very high on Ashton Jeanty. The thought was not that he was going to be one of these first 5 picks. People realistically, very realistically, had him being on the board at 10 or potentially even further down the board. And then post the national championship game, post combine and pro days, he shot up boards. I mean, it was crazy, honestly.
It became undeniable, which,
Yeah,
you know, you love to see for a guy. And that makes him a
absolutely.
blue chip. Just
And
purely undeniable.
I don't want to gloss over Travis Hunter because we really just threw him up there. He
Yeah.
has said he doesn't want to go somewhere that's not going to let him play both sides of the ball, which I think is awesome. But I do question if he has all the skills to be an effective wide receiver. We know he's going to be a great corner. He was better at corner in college to begin with, to begin with. So it makes sense that teams are going to look to primarily have him as a corner. I think with his size, he'd be a great slot receiver, though.
See, that's an interesting conversation because it's looking very likely that he will be the pick at number 2 for the Cleveland Browns. And the conversation is they will use him primarily as a receiver.
Which
In
is
large part because
wild.
they don't have anything at receiver other than Jerry
Right.
Jeudy, and their cornerback room is actually pretty decent. That's like the best part of the team
Well,
outside
and
of
it's
Myles Garrett himself.
right. It's still wild though because he went through the combine as a corner.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I don't know how you make a part-time corner in the NFL.
I don't know.
That's kind of a difficult position to create for yourself.
Maybe they can appease him by making him a wide receiver and returner.
Yeah, I don't know. They'll figure out something. Somebody will think of something because he's just too good to not draft. So
Absolutely.
uh, that's usually where the conversation ends for blue chip guys. So I might have a hot take for us later, and we'll revisit this tier. But in the meantime, I say let's go ahead and get cracking on these guys in order, which means first up is Armand Membu, the tackle out of Missouri, who we named one of our best offensive linemen in the FBS this season, certified big dude by the big dudes in the trenches. And then ever since then has been rising up draft boards and is now generally considered, if not the best, one of the top 3 at worst tackles in this draft class. I see him as an early contributor.
Yeah, I agree. I there's no doubt that he's going to be a fantastic addition to whatever team is lucky enough to get him. But again, is he going at 4? I don't know. It doesn't seem, things don't seem to be pointing that direction. So early contributor makes much more sense.
Yeah, it's also why it's hard to try to slide these guys into any kind of a mock draft. So as we're going through here, we did the top 3, but then it'll be pretty obvious actually starting at this next guy that this is definitely not in any mock draft order. I tried to be alphabetical with it and somehow it got messed up. So next up is actually Azariah Thomas, corner out of Florida State. So if you're not familiar with Azariah Thomas, he's a 6'1 corner. You're already interested, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you find out he's really fast, but he really doesn't have short burst quickness. It's more like long speed. And I think he's better in zone than in man, which makes it it's tricky. with Ezra Thomas.
I I I think he's gonna fall to me into that technician category. I think he's got the traits, but it's also really going to depend on what type of scheme he goes into and if he's able to fit
Sure.
into that scheme on the defensive side of the ball. Because whatever Florida State did this year didn't fucking work. And, obviously that's not his fault entirely. He still stood out enough, but he and that entire Florida State team had so many issues this year.
Yep.
It's rough. It's brutal.
Next up, Benjamin Morrison, corner out of Notre Dame. Didn't get to see him in the college football playoff because he had a season ending injury in October. Yet, if you watch his film from earlier this year and from all of last year, you'd say, how in the world is this guy not a top 20 pick in the NFL
Yeah.
draft? However, I have heard he is still dealing with that injury, which makes it really difficult to project him. How are you still dealing with a problem from October now in April? Um, it
Yeah,
probably means that he will be off some folks' draft boards entirely.
I think he is the literal definition of he's great, but because the other thing that I think we're going to find out wherever he does go is the actual severity of that injury will come to light very quickly. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the question of why did you even waste a pick on this guy, knowing that maybe he will never make 100% recovery from it. I know Notre Dame fans were already writing those checks as excuses whenever he had to miss the college football playoff. And now he potentially is, out of an NFL career. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where this all shakes out.
Question for you before we jump to the next guy, because the next guy, if you can't see the picture, is Cam Ward. Do we want to save the quarterbacks for last?
Ooh,
Because it makes it kind of fun.
that would be fun. Let's save the quarterbacks for last. Let's save them for
Okay.
last.
Which means next up here is Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. And I believe Colston Loveland is almost the definition of he has all the traits kind of a guy, where the route running's not there, the
Mm-hmm.
blocking's not really there. He is a contributor once he gets the ball in his hands. And so that was essentially their entire offense. If the run game got shut down, get the ball in this guy's hands, he will do something interesting.
Right.
Where does that fit on an NFL football field? I'm not sure. I know he is a really great athlete, and the potential's obvious to me that he can be productive, but I don't see it. It's not all together for me.
Well, and it's interesting too because he is, by at least our rankings, the second best tight end on the board, and I think he could probably even drop behind a great number of players that you have behind him. Uh, I don't think he's anywhere near the same level as Tyler Warren, but we'll get to him later.
Which means next up is Darius Alexander, defensive tackle out of Toledo. I've once again a pure definition of has all the traits, except he's a little bit short. It's like 6'1", maybe 6'2", where I don't know, defensive tackle, that's not that bad, but you would think that maybe a little bit bigger would help him. At the same time, the athleticism is off the charts. I think has all the traits kind of a guy, and that would be why he's sneaking into the first round on some folks' mock drafts.
I just need my D tackles to be a little beefier. I need somebody with some beef, a little bit, maybe a Vince Wilfork spare tire hanging off the front of their chest, so they can clog up the middle a little bit more.
You want the beef? Let's talk about Derek Harmon next. Defensive tackle out of Oregon. Transfer from Michigan State, ended up with the Ducks and was the best part of that Oregon defense to me last year. And I say he's an early contributor. Now, that might surprise some folks who are used to seeing him potentially even falling into the middle of the second round in a lot of different mock drafts. But I think Derek Harmon's great and will produce early.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Oregon, a lot of people found out were a bit of a pretender and just somehow got by through the season the way they did. He was part of that. That defense really did bail them out and help them out in so many different areas, made the game easy for the other side of the ball.
Next up, edge rusher out of Boston College, another one of our certified big dudes of the season, Donovan Ezeraku. I feel like the great technician of the edge rushers this season.
And
Where,
that was kind of
yeah,
our assessment of him as an edge rusher, as a top edge rusher in college football this past year.
true, true. So perfect fit. Love to see it.
I love it when a plan
Gotta
comes
keep it
together.
moving. We got 52 of these guys. Not gonna be hard hitting analysis every time. Gotta keep it moving. Donovan Jackson up next, the longtime left guard for the Ohio State Buckeyes, moved to left tackle because of an injury at left tackle, and played phenomenally to the point where there were some folks questioning maybe he can actually play left tackle in the NFL. I don't know that that will actually happen. He actually has the size for it, but appears to be just a phenomenal guard. And why do you want to lose that mobility that he has to stick him at tackle, where maybe that's his preferred position as well at guard, which limits his first round ability? When people were talking about him as a tackle, that's usually when the conversation around him in the first round was. Also, that versatility is valuable. So, depending on what you're looking for, I think Donovan Jackson goes in early contributor category where you plug and play Donovan Jackson somewhere on the offensive line other than center, and he's going to produce for you.
Yeah, I mean, was Donovan Jackson the one everybody was talking about the arm length thing too? That was dinging his versatility? Or am I thinking of somebody
No,
else?
there's a couple arm length guys. Donovan
I know there's a
Jackson
couple.
is fine. Arm length.
Well, and at guard anyway, you know.
Right. Right. No problem at all there.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. A long string of first round picks at receiver. Very well could continue with Emeka Egbuka. What are you thinking? Go ahead.
I I can't say he's going to be a bust because there's nothing that really points to it. But man, I got some sort of weird feeling about it.
I will grant you that he is not the most tantalizing receiver prospect of all time.
Yeah.
It is understandably concerning to some folks that he has really never been the number one guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, who have those number one guys been? Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jeremiah Smith. Or if Jeremiah Smith were eligible for the draft this season, he'd be in the blue chip
Blue chip category.
category
Yeah.
as a true freshman coming out.
And
So I'm okay with that. I'm tempted to throw him in early contributor because I
I
really
wouldn't
do think there is so much there.
You know what the funny thing about it is?
Hmm.
I was like, he's either an early contributor or he's going to be a bust. But I do think if he goes into a situation where he can be the 2 or 3, he'll be great. If he goes in and they expect him to be the number 1 guy, that's where he's going to run into issues. And I hope teams are just smart enough to recognize that.
I think most are. If
I don't know. I've been a Bears fan my whole life.
I was about to say if the Bears draft him, look out. But I would also be willing to be talked into throwing him in technician. Like he's such a skilled receiver.
Mm-hmm. I think the baseline for sure would be technician, or maybe even has all the traits. It's really going to depend. I think if he gets in the right system, he's an early contributor. If he's in the wrong system, I think he has potential to unfortunately be a bust. So yeah, he's in one of the yellow categories there. I'll let you pick. He's your guy.
All right, technician it is. He's not as fast and as big as somebody I would think of has all the traits at receiver.
That's fair.
Next up, Gray Zabel played tackle for the North Dakota State Bison for their incredible run this season. I mean, oh my gosh, didn't really expect that actually after some close calls, and then boom, they're phenomenal again out of nowhere. Um, he is not going to play tackle in the NFL. I promise you that. He will never play tackle in the NFL.
Yep. There's our arm length guy.
He is a plug and play guard, but the very interesting thing about him, he has some experience at center and played center at a very high level at the Senior Bowl, was the best center on the field at the Senior Bowl, even though he mostly played tackle at North Dakota State. So it's a very fun prospect, and once again, like Donovan Jackson, one of those guys where you have some versatility there. Exactly the kind of player that the Philadelphia Eagles draft all the time, except they already have two of them. So do they need another one? Not sure. They just paid Cam Jurgens as well, so
Can never have too many.
right. I love Gray Zabel. He's a phenomenal offensive lineman. Not sure where exactly he ends up as far as actual position in the NFL. I would say start him at guard and you'd be happy. Start him at center, you'd be happy. Have him as your kind of flex sixth man at the offensive line, and you'd be pretty happy with that too.
Call me crazy. He's an early contributor out of North Dakota State as a lineman. Our early contributors are looking all looking pretty
beefy.
similar, pretty beefy.
Next up here is Captain Jack Sawyer, the kid from Pickerington. Worked his way to my heart. I have a signed jersey of his. He has some really big time fans in NFL circles, to the point where there have been discussions of him as kind of a back end of the first round guy. I don't really think that's going to happen because he fits technician to a T, where it's like, man, I could use some extra strength. I could use some extra speed with him, but he knows what he's doing out there. 4-year starter at defensive end for Ohio State. I would hope you know what you're doing at that point, playing for Larry Johnson that long. At the same time, I don't see him as the kind of guy who goes in the first round. So he's on the list because some folks love him that much. But
yeah. I just hope he doesn't fade into obscurity.
yeah.
I worry that he realistically might be a bust guy if he stays at edge. If he can work into a more off ball outside linebacker, I think potentially that's where he's going to be able to find his strength and find his foothold in the NFL. I don't see him working out as an edge.
That's really tough.
I know. I don't want to do it. Like I don't want to. The moments this dude produced at Ohio State, I don't want to do it to him. But
Yeah.
you did it without any argument, so I think you know that it's true.
I know it's true. He's one of those guys we're gonna look back in 20 years and be like, "Damn, what a phenomenal college
College.
player he was."
Yeah. Yep. Oh,
Uh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
moving on to Jade Barron, corner out of Texas. uh, early contributor for me. One of the best corners in this class, no question.
Absolutely.
Easy. Here's a quarterback we're going to skip for the time being.
All right.
Jalen Walker up next. Man, it's either has all the traits or early contributor for Jalen Walker.
I'm leaning towards early contributors because of what that Georgia defense has put out year in and year out on the across the defensive line. He's got the pedigree as far as going to Georgia, being a big time guy there. I want to lean early contributor. I could certainly see he has all the traits though.
Yeah, or is he a Nakobe Dean where, you know, it takes a bit of work to get him where he needs to be. I'm not convinced that he'll be an early contributor. Um, I think honestly, his teammate on the opposite edge is more likely to be an early contributor. We'll get to him later.
That's fair.
I think I'm more in the camp of throwing has all the traits to the point where Jalen Walker very possibly could go the top half of the first round, just because look at what Jacksonville did. They surprised the world going with that big, long defensive end out of Georgia, number one overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's worked out for them. They bet on the upside of the traits.
Absolutely.
Moving on here to James Pierce, who James Pierce Jr., defensive end out of Tennessee, is a really good edge rusher for his size. He played at like 240, which is not that small, but like for an actual defensive end in the NFL, you'd think you'd
Needs
want
about
him.
another 20 to 30 pounds.
Depending on what scheme you're in, yeah. And also, there have been character questions with him. I don't know where that's stemming from. I haven't really wanted to look into that, to be honest with you. Um, I just know that, according to some folks, that's the reason they push him out of the first round. Pure talent, I do believe he is a first round guy, but it's kind of the in between of he has some of the traits, he has the speed you're looking for. I don't think his hands show a technician.
Some reports even suggest that his character may be the worst in this year's draft class. Thanks,
I
Google AI.
That's cool. That's cool. Got a little AI report on the man. It tells us all we need to know for sure.
Nothing would make me happier than to put the Tennessee guy in. I think I'm about to bust.
Well, that's where I was headed. So
Let me just speed that up and throw him there quicker.
feels like a hot take to me. I don't know. A lot of people really like the guy and think he'll be very successful. And I hope it does work out for him.
I don't because he went to Tennessee.
Right, I know. Next up is another quarterback. So we're going to skip that and move right along to this is Jahad Campbell, one of two off-ball linebackers that we have in this little tier list for us here. Jahad Campbell is definitely the better of the two. At the same time, uh, is that actually going to be a first-round pick? Some inside linebacker? Jahad Campbell's great, and I see him as an early contributor. It's more about the value of the position where he'll actually end up getting drafted to me.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
which moves us on to Josh Connerly Jr., the best tackle on that Oregon squad. Do we keep throwing the offensive lineman up an early contributor?
Go ask the Chiefs if they think that offensive line is as important as we're making it, because I think they'll give you a resounding yes. I know certainly Patrick Mahomes will after how the Super Bowl went this past year. We've had our eye on this dude for 2 years. Why would we change now?
You're right. You're right. But that leads us into two more offensive tackles in a row. Josh Simmons of Ohio State and Kelvin Banks Jr. I'm talking about them together because these two have been in contention for the best pure tackle in this draft class until Armand Membu broke that chain and kind of supplanted both of them. Now, here's my concern. So, Kelvin Banks Jr., I'm going to throw in early contributor. I don't think there'd be any question. Josh Simmons had a pretty dang bad knee injury. That's the reason Donovan Jackson got to prove that he's early contributor status up there at maybe even tackle. Supposedly he's fine, and at the pro day he moved pretty fluidly, didn't see any issues. However, are you willing to take a chance on a guy at left tackle with a known injury sticking out there and expecting him to be in the lineup week one? I'm not sure.
I think he's great, but kind of defines that as well, because I don't want to spend a high draft pick on this dude that's supposed to protect my star player, my most expensive prized possession, the future of my franchise. And then 3 plays into the season, there goes his knee again because he's finally back at game speed, finally, putting harder, faster turns and torques and twists on it. And I hope he has an amazing career. But it is very, very scary and concerning that we still have these questions coming about. Bad time to get injured.
Watch him go to the Chiefs and win 5 rings in 6 years. Next up, talk about beef at defensive tackle. I even said that for Derek Harmon. That was an insult to this man. Kenneth Grant is the unit of the defensive line this draft. Perfect encapsulation of has all the traits. He is not a technician and didn't need to be in college. He will have to work on some of that, I presume, in the NFL. He just ate space. Literally ate it.
I see him as a similar to a Bilal Nichols, former Bears player. When he was playing next to Akeem Hicks, Bilal Nichols was awesome. When Akeem Hicks was gone and Bilal Nichols was the best D tackle on that line, things were not as great as they were with Akeem Hicks there. Let's just put it that way. So I I just need to see him move a little bit better, which I know was something I dinged our Missouri player or our Toledo player for, but you know, I don't have to be consistent on this. I'm just consistent on hating Tennessee.
That is true. That's a thing you're very consistent on. Give you credit for that. Luther Burden is up next. And if we were talking about him 3 years ago, I think we have him in blue chip. And the problem with that is he really hasn't developed his technique at all since that time. And we kind of predicted that he would have.
Has he not developed his technique, or did Mizzou hold him back? I mean, props to Luther Burden for staying with one school for as long as he did. But do we
that
think that
is
maybe
definitely
the team,
fair. He had a really, really strong 2023 when they had a quarterback.
mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even like a great quarterback. It was just they had a quarterback. In 2024, they just don't have a quarterback anymore. I'm willing to throw him an early contributor. I really do think highly of Luther Burden, and I think
I
there
think
can be good come of drafting him.
you say, they didn't have a quarterback. They didn't have anybody else to throw to. Now, that's not to say that he's not a good number one. He just can't be the only one. Nobody can.
And I think he would be better as a slot kind of an option. Maybe a number two,
Yeah.
where you want the bigger downfield threat kind of a guy as your X, and then Luther Burden can be your underneath option. I think he'd be phenomenal at that.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen it too, where some teams end up drafting a bunch of those guys, aka the New Orleans Saints.
The
And so then
Raiders.
we just have nothing but underneath routes all the time.
Slant boy.
Which, was a perfect situation for Derek Carr to walk into. Anyway, Malachi Starks is up next. This is a fascinating case where the 2023 is better than the 2024, and we can't chalk it up to being a quarterback dependent position because Malachi Starks is a safety.
Yep.
Um, makes me want to put him in either has the traits or maybe even like he's great, but, and I say that because your concern with a situation like that is that a work ethic issue?
Mm-hmm.
Is that we have to figure out what caused that drop off because something happened, and maybe it's something we can fix.
Well, and apparently teams have already talked to him about playing safety, nickel, or even corner. I mean, if he's having those conversations, I wish I knew how they'd been going. But if he's been
Right.
open to it, he's been, receptive and doing everything he can to see the field. I think you're throwing him into that technician or has all the traits area because clearly, if teams are even coming up to him and considering it, they're seeing something that says, yeah, we think this
Yeah.
guy can make the change if needed. Although moving to a nickel would be fucking wild.
I don't know. That's less weird to me as a safety than moving to a pure boundary corner.
That's fair.
But I'm going to throw him and has all the traits. I think Malachi Starks is a very intriguing prospect, and if some team can make it work for him, he can be great.
Absolutely.
Next up, Mason Graham, defensive tackle for Michigan, and once again, one of our certified big dudes of the season.
I feel like because if he wasn't a D tackle, he'd be a blue chip. I think his position is what's really preventing him from being in that conversation.
I say blue chip should not be an indication of where we think the positional value is. Blue chip should be, is this what we would look for if we're drafting this position? And I say
I
Mason
think he's that guy.
Graham is a blue chip
Yeah,
defensive tackle,
I agree.
which means he's not going to be taken in the top 3-4 picks, but he's going in the top 10, guaranteed. I haven't actually heard anybody else talk about Mason Graham as a blue chip prospect in this year's draft, and it hurts me to say that he is.
I thought you were gonna
After
say it
put,
hurts you
especially
that people aren't recognizing. I'm like, whoa, you're being way too nice. Nobody even redeemed that, and you're being so nice.
especially hurts me to put him in blue chip after I put Jack Sawyer and think about the bust. I can't believe this has happened.
I know. I'm
But I'm trying
sorry.
to be honest and as
Impartial, at least for the
impartial as
draft.
possible. The draft is a celebration of the players individually. The school can go fuck itself. That's where we're at with the team up north. All right, next up, Matthew Golden, receiver from Texas. His head got cut off in this picture, but we can very plainly see that number 2, which, looks great in that Texas white and burnt orange.
Oh, it's a great jersey, isn't it?
Honestly, it's really clean.
It's so clean.
I mean, yeah.
It's the brightest white in college football, I feel like. It's crazy.
I know. It's pretty good looking. Also, what's good looking is his 40 time. And outside of that, I'm not actually convinced about Matthew Golden. People have been putting him up as potentially the best receiver in this class now, which is wild to me. I think I have 3 guys ahead of him for sure, personally. And I'm almost willing to throw him in bust, which I don't think anybody else would appreciate.
I think if
But this is
you're
our show.
I think if your biggest selling point is speed, we've seen where that's not worked out.
Right.
Many times. Ask the Raiders.
Right.
And I wonder too, does he really have the size to be effective as an NFL linebacker or NFL wide receiver? Why'd I say linebacker? Jesus.
I have no idea.
I don't either. I'm not even looking at anything that says linebacker right now. Yeah, I mean
6 foot's not terrible. You can there are plenty of 6 foot receivers in the league.
Oh yeah. All in the slot.
For the most part, yeah. It's either has the traits or a bust for me. And I feel like I'm crazy to consider that. According to what most people around league circles and everything are saying. I'm telling you how I see it. What are you feeling? It's up to you now. I gave you 2 options.
I'm thinking bust. I'm thinking bust because I think there's a lot of hype around him, and I think if you really sit there and look at everything, you're gonna be more disappointed than excited if it all comes together the way that it is projected itself thus far.
Next up is the other 40-time demon, Maxwell Hairston, corner from Kentucky. Now, the difference for me is that when you watch Maxwell Hairston play, he's also actually a pretty good corner. Like, I would throw him in, has all the traits of what you're looking for. The reason I'm saying that is he gets really handsy, which is weird to me with how fast he is, because it's usually the slower guys who have to compensate who end up grabbing. It's not the case that he needs to be grabbing to keep up with guys, but he does anyway. So that's something really needs to work on. And I'm not willing to throw him an early contributor because of that. But Maxwell Hairston to me has all the traits you were looking for as a true throw him on an island corner.
Yeah, whereas having great speed as a wide receiver is awesome and nice to have. It is definitely becoming a necessity for defensive backs. So I agree 100%. Has all the traits.
Mike Green, the defensive end out of Marshall, is up next. Now, there are character concerns with him in a similar vein to the James Pierce situation, except we know a little bit more about Mike Green. If you remember his time at Virginia, you would remember it because he got kicked off the team. He resurfaced at Marshall and had a phenomenal season. One of the greatest seasons we've seen from a defensive end in a little while. I think the level of competition is what brought Ezraku above him, but he finished, I believe, second place for our defensive end of the year as the big dudes in the trenches. Mike Green is awesome as a talent. I would throw him an early contributor Or are we that concerned with character stuff that he goes in, he's great, but
Yeah, that's
feels
tough.
like feels like he's had a season to clean it up, and unfortunately, we don't get the benefit of
See,
interviews with him. So
he's had a season to clean it up, but there was an allegation when he was in high school too.
yeah,
And we've seen. I don't want to talk about Deshaun Watson a ton, but we've seen his whole world go around. But at the same time, haven't heard anything about Jameis Winston since he was in college.
right.
I if he was the top edge rusher, I think we probably put him in early contributor. I do think
Yeah.
he's still in that top conversation, top group of guys for sure. But I think not being the number one guy puts him in the he's great, but
I mean, is that actually that fair? Because we're comparing him to the guy we were calling the consensus number one player in the draft. Then,
I mean, true. But I think it's fair.
I think we can put him there. I would still draft him before I drafted Pierce, which I guess makes sense. We have Pierce in the bust. So, uh, next up here, Michael Williams, great edge out of Georgia, kind of an outside linebacker more than a defensive end, but the scheme that Georgia plays, he can move down to 4-3 D end in the league and be essentially the same role. Um, I think this is an early contributor. I think Michael Williams is going to be phenomenal, and I don't know why more people haven't been on his train from the beginning.
I agree. I agree. Nothing really. No need to belabor this point.
Love it. Nick Scorton up next, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. The Purdue transfer had a great season with the Boilermakers and said, "I'm going to go make that money, that oil money time, baby." And had a decent season with Texas A&M, but I feel like Texas A&M misuses their defensive linemen every year, all the time, and have since before Jimbo even. And now they're in the Mike Elko era. And I thought, he's had some good teams at Duke. He knows how to use players. Apparently not, because it's the same shit. Where it's like, man, you had another extremely talented defensive line, and it just felt like you could have gotten more out of it. Nick Scorton, though, as an individual player, as a prospect, I like him a lot. Um, I don't know if I'm willing to say early contributor though.
I think he definitely falls in that has all the traits category because again, it's a guy that we didn't really get to see it all the way through at Texas A&M for all the reasons you just talked about.
Next up here, another safety. This is Nick Emanwari out of South Carolina.
Go Cox.
Now, you might be tempted to say has all the traits because holy shit, he matches basically perfectly every measurable you could possibly want him to. But here's the really cool part. He might be the best tackler in this draft.
So what you're saying is move him to safety.
Well, he is a safety.
Oh, sorry. I thought he had corner.
Nope.
Cross-eyed looking at this chart you've got on I've got on Excel.
um, here's my very hot take time. Am I willing to throw all my chips in on Nick Emanwari? I
I don't think so. I wouldn't be.
we'll put him an early contributor. Just know that I'm a really big fan of Nick Emanwari.
I think if you're a team looking for a safety, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know that he breaks into that other category though.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Next up, Omarion Hampton. With all the hype around Ashton Genty, it's very easy to forget how great of a season Hampton had at North Carolina this year. Almost 1,800 yards by himself down there in Chapel Hill. Yeah, phenomenal running back. I would expect him to be the first running back off the board in most years, except that we have an Ashton Genty this go around.
Mm-hmm.
Easy throw into early contributor for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. How it made it harder to see stuff. All right. Siobhan Revel is up next. Siobhan Revel, the corner out of East Carolina. Man, he would be up there, an early contributor, if not for the season ending injury he just had. We've been doing this with our injury guys. He goes in the he's great but tier because it's possible Siobhan Revel is the first corner off the board, if not for the season ending injury that he had. And we will see if he's ready to go early in next season. I think he can be. It's just a matter of, getting that rehab right and all that jazz. He's a phenomenal player, though. Only real knock on him as a draft prospect is his age. It took him a while to get it all figured out, but that happens sometimes. And you're drafting a 24-year-old, you'd expect him to hit the ground running, and he's the kind of guy who can. So it'd still be worth taking.
Absolutely.
Looks like Shador Sanders fell into place with the quarterback row, which means we'll move on to Shamar Stewart. In the meantime, Shamar Stewart, one of those big defensive tackles at Texas A&M, kind of the same situation. Has all the traits. Same situation as Nick Scorton, I should clarify, I guess. Where it's like,
Absolutely.
man, that whole Texas A&M defensive line group every year, I just watch them and say, man, they have almost everything going for them. I wish they would put it all together. Please, please be better than you are.
Why won't you just be good?
Now, here's a really interesting conversation with Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, up next for us here. He is probably the best overall receiver in this class. The question mark with him is, does he actually love football? Which is kind of a problem.
It's not a good question mark to have.
Feels like when he wants to be, he is a really dominant receiver. He tends to take plays off. I
It's
don't
not
know what to
good.
do about that. I am I'm still I don't want to put him in bust. I really don't. I think that can come together, and we've seen it happen before both ways, I guess. I have faith in McMillan, Tit as he's called.
Do you have faith in him because you enjoy using him in college football 25?
I actually didn't enjoy using him in college football 25.
Well,
They made him kind
fair.
of slow, and he's not actually that slow.
Okay, that's fair. Oh man. I think he falls into he's great, but oh no, did you freeze? Oh no, I think I lost Doug. He's frozen, and he was the one running. He was the one running the tier list. This is not good. I think I've lost him. Oh yeah, this is terrifying. Oh no. I don't know what's happened. I to me, at least, talking about Territoria McMillan, he if he's got these concerns of how much does this dude actually like football, extremely concerning to me, and I think it should be extremely concerning to anybody potentially looking to draft him or have him as a member of their team. I would put him in he's great, but for that reason, um, and not he's I'm about to bust, but also he didn't go to Tennessee, so I'm willing to give him a little bit of grace on that front. Hello,
I'm
hi,
back. I'm alive.
okay. I was just
Oh my
saying,
gosh.
uh, almost solely because he didn't go to Tennessee, I'm willing to give him in a he's great, but for McMillan. Versus a I think I'm about to bust. But I think he's also helped by the fact that he's not kind of seen as this top guy or as the top wide receiver in this draft class. I was going to start talking about a dude that you don't have on your list at all, but you came back in time, so I don't have to do that now.
We might if we get there. You know,
Okay. I think you can
we'll see.
probably guess who it is.
Um, Seth
It's a running.
Hennigan.
No, no. But I mean, if we want to have that conversation, we can. No, I'm talking about a running back, but we'll get there.
Caleb Johnson.
No.
Okay. All right. Um, I'll keep thinking about it in the meantime. Moving on to TJ Sanders, another South Carolina player for us here, defensive tackle. Um, has has kind of been propped up as the potential surprise defensive tackle that ends up in the first round. We often get a surprise defensive tackle. It's either TJ Sanders or a guy that we'll get to in a minute for a lot of folks, um, simply because of the traits. And if
Right.
you're betting on the upside, it's hard to go wrong with one of these defensive linemen in this has all those traits here. And that's what makes this draft really tough. There are a lot of guys who have most of what you're looking for. It's not a complete package. That's a lot of guys this year.
Yep.
Uh, I guess to keep it very simple, I'll jump ahead a smidge to that other defensive tackle I was just talking about. That would be Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle from Ohio State. Phenomenal pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Conditioning concerns. You're questioning whether he can stay on the field, as a 3 down defensive tackle. But if you're betting on the upside, there's a ton of upside. There's a big dude in the trenches worth of upside.
Absolutely.
So, kind of that same category of, if you're thinking defensive tackle and you have the options in front of you of Darius Alexander and TJ Sanders and Tyleik Williams, it's hard to go wrong. It's just a matter of picking the guy you believe you can coach the best into the proper techniques of what you need.
And he's got the beef.
Hell yeah. Another running back for us here, Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. Uh, billed as the speedster of the tandem at Ohio State this year between he and Quinshon Judkins. Um, in addition to being a really fast guy, he is a phenomenal blocker. like legitimately a really good pass blocking running back, which makes him a fascinating option. And because of that versatility, along with his pass catching ability, something I would put him above even Omarion Hampton in. That kind of versatility makes him some have some buzz for the first round, not a whole lot, and it's hard to get multiple running backs into the first round these days anymore anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking at a second running back off the board, usually the conversation goes probably Omarion Hampton. But if it's not Omarion Hampton, it would be one of Travion Henderson or there's a couple other guys who tend to make those kind of lists. We'll get to
Scadaboo.
one other one.
Yeah.
Scadaboo really hasn't.
Yeah, and I figured this is probably the best time to bring it up. He's the one that's really fallen off. I mean, Omarion Hampton, not to take anything away from him, being at North Carolina, I think kind of hit him a bit. And maybe his combine and pro days have just really wowed people. But man, I would almost put Scadaboo in an early contributor factor solely based on the fact that he's going to be pissed off and wanting to prove everybody who he actually is. We saw how he played for Arizona State in that playoff game, and that was very much his attitude going into that game. And I don't want to, get too far away from Travion Henderson. Yes, I agree. He's going to be an early contributor because he has everything that you want and then some. Again, we're not putting Cam Scadaboo on here, but I do think we very easily could have, and I honestly would say he'd be an early contributor in his own right.
Yeah, I didn't want to make this list all that long, and I haven't seen anybody talk about him for the first round at
I know.
all. So I
I
didn't.
know.
That's why I didn't include him.
Yeah. It's been wild to me seeing Omari and Hampton just fly up boards like this, though.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. But if you did see him play, you would understand. I know you didn't.
Fair.
That's fine.
I no, I saw him once in that back and forth game with Duke that nobody wanted to win.
That game was very fun. As a college football fan, oh man. All right, moving right along here. Trey Amos, another older cornerback prospect. This guy out of Ole Miss. Trey Amos. Oh man, I will not be one of the first corners taken.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few other guys who are like more highly regarded as prospects. I believe Trey Amos will be an early contributor at corner.
I can see that.
All right, only two more big dudes in the trenches left on our list here. First one up is Tyler Booker, pure guard prospect here out of Alabama. A lot of folks consider him to be the best true guard in this class. That's usually the same folks thinking of Donovan Jackson as a flexible, either a guard or a tackle. But I have seen folks put Booker above Donovan Jackson as a guard prospect as well. Very solid early contributor as a guard. I mean, it's pretty easy to imagine a plug and play situation with him. Just a matter of, do you really want to draft a guard in the first round, right? Some teams do and do it successfully. Other teams don't and are successful in not doing that. So up in the air. But I would say Tyler Booker is very easily an early contributor.
I would agree.
Tyler Warren up next.
We'd get there eventually. I forgot how far
Yeah.
down the fucking alphabet T is, but there we go. Tyler Warren.
Tyler Warren. Some people would try to fight me to put in blue chip.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've already talked about Colson Loveland. Tyler Warren is leaps and bounds ahead of him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think in the opinions of a lot of people, he can block, he can catch the ball, he can be a downfield threat. man, kind of the prototypical guy you want to put in at tight end. What concerns me is we haven't really seen a ton of success for rookie tight ends. I think the most successful one we've seen, what?
Brock
Uh,
Bowers. I mean, it was pretty good.
Bowers was it, but even there were three guys that can't. Laporta took a couple years to get going.
Yeah, but it's not like top end,
Well, right.
very top of the first round tight ends don't happen all that often. The
Yeah.
one everybody compares everybody else to is Kyle Pitts because everyone thought the world of Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. That's
He didn't fit the traditional tight end role, and everyone knew it at the time. So to try to play him as an inline tight end was stupid from the beginning. He's like
He's a
a
big
slot
slot receiver.
receiver
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
which is basically how I feel about Colston Loveland, which makes this conversation about around him harder. And why we have him in has all the traits and not even in early contributor. It's like I think he's a really good player. He doesn't fit what teams usually use at tight end. Tyler Warren probably is the most prototypical tight end we have seen in a good while. Probably since that run of Iowa tight ends when they had two tight ends go in the first round.
Like 3 years in a
And
row. Yeah.
no, two tight ends go in the first round in the same draft.
I know, but it's
That
like
draft.
they're putting one in every single year.
And those guys were pretty successful early on. Oh man, I kind of am tempted because of my definition of he's exactly what you look for when you're looking to draft that position.
Do it. He checks all the
I'm
boxes. Do it.
I'm calling Tyler Warren a blue chip prospect at tight end.
I love it.
That feels so weird. And yet it feels so right at the same time.
Feels so
All right.
right.
Walter Nolan up next. One of those really fascinating pass rushing defensive tackles. He is out of Ole Miss now, a transfer originally from Texas A&M because he didn't feel like he was getting developed at Texas A&M. Hey,
I
isn't that
wonder
crazy?
why.
And then at Ole Miss, he looked phenomenal. I could very easily see an early contributor role for Walter Nolan. There are some conversations floating around about some character concerns with him. I do not know where they're coming from. Same vein as James Pierce. It's like I don't really know what that stems from. But some people are concerned with it. So what does that do to his actual draft stock? I don't know. As far as a football player on the football field is concerned, I would put him in early contributor. I think he's that good.
Perceived sense of entitlement and maturity in shoes. These concerns include reports of him walking off the practice field due to frustration, being seen as overzealous in his pass rush, sometimes at the expense of sound technique.
Yeah, I kind of
Honest,
don't care.
I would say that's more has all the traits. And honestly, first off,
Maybe.
this picture is very deceiving. His weight from the combine is 296. So potentially he
Hell
put
yeah.
on more weight since when this picture was taken. But he does not look like he's no 296. To that end, if he's willing to learn, I think a move to the outside might be in line for him as well. Maybe be like a Von Miller type guy that can play anywhere on the defensive line. Certainly with his build, I think he has the ability for it, especially with how he's able to pass rush from the inside to begin with. So, yeah, I'm fine with early contributor, even though I am leaning a little bit more towards has all the traits.
has all the traits is probably more in line where most people have him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay knocking him down to that. I would take him before I took the other defensive tackles that we have in this category, though.
That's fair.
I would say in the has all the traits tier, if we split those defensive tackles into tiers, it's Nolan and Kenneth Grant, and then Tyleek Williams, TJ Sanders, Shamar Stewart, and Darius Alexander all together there.
Yeah.
Next up, Will Campbell. For a while, the consensus number one offensive lineman in this class. Massive concerns with his arm length.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
irony
And
being his arms are not massive.
yeah. And I man, that measurement coming out and just immediately how everybody turned on him because he has you can't even really say he has all the traits. I think he's the definition of a true technician because he's able to overcome
True.
some of the issues, right?
That is true. Here's my contention. I think that has all the traits and technician tiers. We do have him below early contributor. I'm willing to say, even with his shortfall of short arms, just stumble right into him. He can still be an early contributor even at tackle. Like I really do think he could figure it out. I'm willing to put him an early contributor.
Let's do it.
The probability that he gets moved to guard is greater than a lot of people cared to admit just not that long ago. And
Right.
if he does get moved to guard, he will be one of the best guards in the league pretty quickly. Like
I
he's a
agree.
really good offensive lineman. So
I agree.
Will Johnson up next. Unfortunately, another injury concern with Will Johnson. Other than that, I would put him up there with Jahdae Barron as the best corner in this class.
Yeah, I think he again another guy that's the definition of he's great, but missed the biggest game of the year for Michigan, and I guess fortunately for the Wolverines, didn't hurt him that much. But it's certainly disappointing we didn't get to see him go up against Ohio State in that one.
And then the four that are out of alphabetical order. Starting with Carson Sweshinger. Off ball linebacker out of UCLA has really soared up draft boards recently. And if there are two linebackers that go in the first round, he would be the second of them behind Shad Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of the scuttlebutt right now. At the same time, how often are we really seeing two pure inside linebackers going in the first round? At the same time, I don't know that he's actually confined to inside linebacker. He does have some pass rush ability and did bulk up a bit to potentially play more of a traditional linebacker role. At the combine, he was heavier than what he played at in college, where he was almost more of a hybrid safety linebacker at times and was using blitz packages. Like he's that kind of an athlete. So he bulked up to like 245, I believe, of 240, 245 at the combine
Mm-hmm.
to be more in line with traditional linebacker role. I would say that probably puts him as a has all the traits kind of a guy. If you're looking for that cover ability, that pure, sticky, won't let a guy in front of him, probably not that technical of a
Right.
coverage guy. But if you're really just purely betting on the traits, he does have the upside, which is what pushes him for some folks as early as the bottom of the first round.
I could see it. I could certainly see it.
Jaden Higgins up next, wide receiver out of Iowa State. There are a couple of receivers that are kind of on the fringes of probably going to be day two guys, but if somebody falls in love, right? Jaden Higgins, the biggest of those, which has meant more movement up draft boards than the rest, simply because X receivers are typically going to be considered more highly than slot type guys. Jaden
Mm-hmm.
Higgins, potentially one of those. I don't know that we have another true X receiver up here, at least in this tier list. So helps him
Yeah.
quite a bit. I don't actually think he's going to be a good pro.
Yeah. Think he's a
And I
bust?
want to put him in, I want to throw him in bust.
Do it. It'll make me laugh.
Success. That's what it's all about. Mason Taylor makes the tier list here as the third tight end being talked about as potential uh, early draftee. Now, I
Oh,
can't truly imagine a world where we have three tight ends go in the first round. If we do, it's down to him and Arroyo out of Miami, and I think it would be Mason Taylor more than
mm,
Arroyo. Um, he's not an early contributor.
no. I think he's
Probably more
probably a
the, yeah, yeah.
technician because I think, we talked about Kyle Pitts. I think he needs to be in that system that's going to work for him. I don't think he's going to be a plug and play type of guy.
And the last of the non-quarterbacks that we have here, Quinshon Judkins, running back out of the Ohio State, of course, transfer from Ole Miss, where Ole Miss he got to show off a lot more long run ability as the pure number one lead back, the feature back. At Ohio State, he was used in the way that I believe he will more likely be used in the NFL, where he was more of a short yardage situational back, the power back of the tandem, which means there's very limited upside to be actually a first round guy. I think
Yeah.
folks who were the conversation around him in the first round is more reaching back to his Ole Miss days of saying he's proven he can be a bell cow back. And if you love the power aspect of his game compared to the speed ability of Travian Henderson, maybe he sneaks in as that third running back, just depending on what team's drafting him, right? Um, because he's a running back, it makes this tier system a little bit tricky. Probably fair to call him an early contributor, though. I really do think he can make an impact pretty early, but I have a hard time seeing him actually get drafted as a three down back.
Yeah, I think so many teams, first of all, are going to more of a running back by committee, and I think
Mm-hmm.
he will slide perfectly into that. Uh, so I'm willing to put him as a technician. I don't think he deserves to be, and he's great, but I think he's going to be more of a technician. There's going to be plan packages and situations where he comes in and does his thing. And to that end, that certainly means to me, at least, I wouldn't want to take him in the first round, unless I think, yeah, we can get the Ole Miss Quinshon Judkins here and knock it out of the park and stretch a little bit to grab him.
So we have the quarterbacks left to go. I think the final of the hot takes here, which is such a cold take at this point. No quarterbacks going in the blue chip tier.
I agree.
There were 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round of last year's NFL draft. And let's just say Cam Ward is the projected number 1 overall pick right now. Like, I don't see a world where he's not the number 1 overall pick right now. He would have been the 7th quarterback taken last year.
Oh
yeah. That's just that's tough. So blue chip is what it is. It's an interesting mix of blue chips because Mason Graham and Tyler Warren don't typically make that kind of a tier for most folks, but by our definition, they fit
do.
exactly what we'd be looking for.
I guess the question
So,
is, do we think that he has enough to turn the ship around in Tennessee? Because honestly, I'm thinking if he goes to Tennessee, number 1 overall, I think he ends up sitting a year and they're going to ride it out with shit, why is my mind going blank?
Will Levis.
Yeah, I think they ride it out with Will Levis because it can't get worse and there's not going to be anything else on that team to help him.
I can't imagine a world where you take a quarterback at number 1 overall and don't already have him slotted as your starting quarterback. That's just not how the NFL
Yeah, I
works.
mean, that's not how the league works anymore.
And when has it ever been? Like back when we were taking a quarterback early and the first quarterback off the board didn't start. It was like the first quarterback off the board going in the 3rd, 4th round. So,
yeah.
Here's my contention with Cam Ward. It's like he is so flippant with his ball security that it scares the crap out of me as an NFL team. And I'm not sure how you actually draft him number 1 overall because I just don't see. I want to put Cam Ward in bust.
Really? That is a hot take. I did not see that coming. But
especially because I've been such a big Cam Ward fan for years.
I know. But you let me put Jack Sawyer down there too. And I agree though, because even if he doesn't go first, he's probably going second, and neither Tennessee nor Cleveland are in good positions to develop a quarterback right now. Obviously, Cleveland never has been.
Right.
And I don't know what the fuck Tennessee's doing either.
Yeah. So I'm not actually as scared of the offensive line situation as a lot of folks are who would make this claim. It's like if any quarterback in any of the last 5 drafts could survive a bad offensive line, I think it's Cam Ward. Just how he plays, he would survive that. At the same time, oh my gosh, you can't hold on to the ball for 40 seconds in the NFL. Right.
I hate that. I hate
Yep.
that.
Yep.
I know you do too.
But like, I think it's accurate. All right, which of the quarterbacks you want to talk about next?
Well, looking at your list here, I think the next one we should talk about just got his number retired for mediocre to subpar performance. Number 2, Shador Sanders. Never to be worn again at Colorado. You want to know the craziest thing is though?
Go ahead.
I do think he will end up being the best of these 4 in the NFL.
Me too. That's where I was about to go. Like, I really do think there's something there. I'm willing to put Shador in technician.
I would agree.
I think he overcomes some limitations with how he plays, and I think the leadership traits are there and what you'd be looking for.
Absolutely. Which I think Jackson Dart is the next logical person to talk about because I think leadership traits are the only reason he's climbing up boards. We saw him at Ole Miss. I don't know what people saw that made them so excited that he's in this top 3-4 conversation for quarterbacks. I certainly don't see it. I'm unsure what other people are seeing. I depending on where he gets drafted, if he's another day one guy, I think he's going to end up being a bust. If he gets picked up in the second round, I think then we get into kind of that technician area, that technician realm where he might have a chance to develop and eventually become the guy. He cannot be somebody that you're going to hang your hat on for a franchise as a first round draft pick.
And I agree.
That puts us in the situation of what tier does that mean he belongs in?
He's a bust.
I love it.
Which leaves the quarterback from the University of Alabama, Jalen Milroe. Why are we talking about Jalen Milroe? All right, so here's the really fun part with Jalen Milroe. We would, if I were running an NFL team and it came down to, I don't know, for some reason the only player left on the available to draft was Jalen Milroe, I'd be like, all right, I'm not taking him to be a quarterback. I am taking him because he is Taysom Hill, except he's faster.
Yeah.
Which means I think there's a place for him in the league, and it's probably not actually a quarterback. But if he gets converted to running back or tight end, I actually think there's a realm where Jalen Milroe is awesome. Which makes me want to put him in he's great, but for the very unusual reason that he's great, but he plays the wrong position.
My biggest thing with Jalen Milroe, if he stays quarterback, and I have no reason to think that he won't, but if he stays as a quarterback, he's not been a guy that you're sitting here thinking, "Oh yeah, this is exactly who I want to be the one running my, being my franchise player." It's been that way from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's tough. It's tough, and there's always been complaints. There's always been concerns. It's nothing's come easy or been easy for Jalen Milroe. There was, I think it was against UAB, or not UAB. It was against USF.
USF.
He got taken out. You know.
Yep. So there's also a realm where we say he has the traits. His arm strength is incredible. His athleticism is off the charts. And if that's what you're looking for at a quarterback, he is one of the best athletes we've seen in a while. He rivals Lamar Jackson as a runner and has probably a prettier deep ball than Lamar Jackson does. The problem is he can't hit the left side of a barn when he hits the deep ball, but he can chuck it 90 yards on his knees.
He can huck it. Yep.
What do you do with that?
Yeah. Hmm.
I think the real
Has all
answer
the
is
traits.
we keep him at quarterback. He's probably a bust of a quarterback.
That's fair.
That's probably the real answer.
That's so brutal too. I mean, it's
Yep.
not a good quarterback draft. Well, it's not. And maybe part of that is where it's juxtaposed against one of the best quarterback drafts probably ever. Um, but man, it's absolutely wild. And I mean, look, even NFL.com and the NFL loves to glaze quarterbacks. We talked about 1 through 4. Somehow they have Tyler Show in here from Louisville
Shuck.
as a first or second rounder. And then Quinn Ewers dropping all the way to third or fourth rounder as the 6th
Mhm.
best quarterback in the draft class. And it's just Will Howard, Kyle McCord, Dylan Gabriel, Riley Leonard, a lot of guys that were just great in college that don't have anything that just wows you.
Yeah. So that's one I didn't include that I guess I could have. I didn't know that Tyler Shock was getting any love as a bottom of the first round kind of
Well,
a guy.
first or second round guy, yeah.
Well, even still, I tried to include all those kind of guys here too. That's why we have 52 of them.
Fair.
But there's a real argument the best pure passer of this draft class is Tyler Shock. When you watch him play at Louisville, it's some of the best film you'll see of a quarterback for a while. He's 26. He's had injury concerns he had an injury at Oregon, he had an injury at Texas Tech. There's I don't think he played a whole season except for last year at Louisville. Like there are reasons not to draft Tyler Shock that are completely different from him being a legitimately probably one of the best pure quarterbacks in this class. Tyler Shock goes in the he's great but category for me for
Yeah.
the injury history and him being 26 already. So
Yeah. I 100% understand that and agree with that, by the way. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this all shakes out come the draft, which of course starts tomorrow, or if you're an audio listener, later today. So we hope that you have enjoyed this tier list, and we hope that you'll tune in tomorrow. Maybe have us up on a second screen, or maybe just have us
have
up
a
and mute the TV. Let us be your commentators for the night.
bourbon
Uh,
with us or with me in particular. Don't let me drink
absolutely.
alone, please. All right, folks. I appreciate you tuning in. As Bug said, uh, yeah, watch out for tomorrow. I don't think we'll be streaming anything other than the first round, but first round's always a good time.
Absolutely. When has it not been?
Um, the year that I was still a Browns fan, and we drafted Brandon Whedon in the first round. That was not a fun first round.
It's fair. Hey,
I
Doug.
just said he's 26 for Tyler Shock. Brandon Whedon was 28 when the Browns drafted him in the first round.
Oh my goodness.
Former minor league baseball prospect, washed out, and then played quarterback for 4 years at Oklahoma State. Like, bruh, you missed your shot. It's not going to happen. Please leave me alone as an innocent Browns fan at the time.
Well, we got some links here, so please check us out. Patreon.com/BDT football if you want to support the channel. Or you could head on over to twitch.tv/Big Dudes in the Trenches, all one word. Drop a sub and support us there as well. You can also check us out on Twitter or X at BDT Football, Facebook.com/BDT Football, Instagram.com/BDT_football. Our website and mailbox are getting worked on right now, so I'm not going to include those. You can listen to some old episodes if you really want to know what that is. YouTube.com/Big Dudes in the Trenches, and then the discord.gg/capital U, capital E, lowercase d, lowercase j, capital C, capital B, lowercase k, 8, lowercase b. Suck it, Tug.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Appreciate that.
Hey, Doug.
Yes, sir.
Why are elephants so wrinkly?
I mean, the real answer probably has something to do with them being in like the desert and their skin
Right.
drying out.
But it's because you can't iron them.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna take issue with that. You probably can. Like, would an elephant really care? How thick is elephant skin? Can they feel an iron?
Probably.
Depends on how hot you have the iron.
I mean, fair. We're getting way too into this. We need to just get out of here.
I say that's a great challenge for you. Before tomorrow, before the draft, you go find an elephant and you try to iron it. See what happens.
See how long before I get kicked out of the zoo?
Yep.
All right,
Might not
ladies
let
and
you in
gentlemen.
with the iron in the first place. It's worth a shot.
Well, our ladies and gentlemen, if you were here live with us, we will see you tomorrow. And if you are listening, we'll see you with the draft. Peace out, Girl Scout. Until next time.